Hello everyone, Ray Pedraza with the McAllen Cable Network here at McAllen City Hall, where the old McAllen General Hospital once stood. Around this time of year, people trade ghost stories, and whether or not you believe in the spirits of the dead, it's hard to ignore what several employees say they have witnessed here. What one woman heard even made her quit her job. Some believe that most of the alleged paranormal activity at McAllen City Hall happens on the second floor, but we found employees with a story to tell on every floor. On the third level of the building, Myra Quintanilla has had at least 3 strange encounters.
I was working in the morning. It was maybe like around 7 o'clock, so I was the only one here. From that office over there where Mr. Garcia, it's right there, I could hear like papers like just moving around. And I mean, it was just me by myself, so you could clearly hear papers like moving around. So I literally stand up and I go stand in front of the office, and I'm there looking like this, and I'm staring at the desk because that's where I hear the noise coming from. But there's nothing, and you can't see anything. And I'm just there staring at it like for 3 seconds because I could hear the noise, like the papers. I mean, it's just so weird because you're standing and you can hear it, but you can't see it. The other time was when I was coming from the restroom. I was coming outside, and Patty from engineering used to sit over here in the front desk. When I passed by her, I saw a little girl right behind her desk, like right behind her chair. It was just a little girl, like maybe she was just walking this way. So I go back and I'm like, what is why is there a little girl there? So I go over there and I go, Patty, I go, who's here? And she's like, nobody. And I go, I just saw a little girl. Like I literally saw a little girl. It was maybe about this height, maybe 5 years old or something, and she was behind her chair. And then me and Karina, the girl that works here, one time we were staying late, maybe around 6:30. We both decided to go to the restroom before we leave. We're both walking to the restroom, and as we walk where the hall is for the lounge, well, we're walking passing it, and we both look towards the lounge. The lights are off, obviously. There's this girl with a white dress, and we both saw her because we both looked at each other right after that. And we're just like, and then we look back, and we both described her. I'm like, what did you see? And she's like, I saw a girl that was blonde, and she had a white dress, and she was sitting on the sofa in the lounge. And we both saw her. I mean, we both saw the same thing.
On the second floor, Juan Gonzalez, a human resources director, says he's had so many ghostly encounters that he started keeping a log of unexplained events.
It was really nothing that really started it. I was just working here late one night, and I heard like papers shuffling, and so naturally I got up. I thought one of my workers had come back to work. It was about 6:15, 6:20, and so I went out there. Nobody was there, so I kind of just said, well, it's just my imagination. I'm hearing things. So came back to work, and that's kind of the way it got started.
Another time he heard a hollow knocking noise. Then there was the instance where he was working on his computer and felt the back of his head being touched. All of this was happening after work hours, between 6 and 6:30 in the evening.
What really started getting a little bit odd was when I started having problems with my computer. And they were very unique problems in the sense that I would type something up, and all of a sudden it would stop, okay, it would freeze, which is not a big deal. But then as I was going to try to correct it, it just multiplied it like about 50 times what I had written, and it had bolded and capitalized it. And so that kind of
What were you typing?
It was just a typical note, and
It wasn't. I don't believe in ghosts.
No, not at all. It was just a simple email to, I think, one of the department heads, but it multiplied it 50 to 75 times. What I had typed out, and it was in bold print, and it was capitalized, and I hadn't touched it, and so that was really odd. And so I went ahead and just shut down the computer. I decided to leave, and I said, I think I've worked long enough, and so I think I'm going home. And a couple of days later, the same thing happened. And I called the IT department. They came and they checked it, and they said that they had never seen that before, but that they would run some tests and see if they could find the source of that.
Mr. Gonzalez says a couple of days later he was told his computer was working just fine. Then he started hearing noises outside his door, like drawers opening and closing in the adjacent office, while no one was there. And at times, he's heard footsteps walking up to his door, but as he turns to greet his visitor, the sound of the footsteps ends.
Then one really odd thing that happened is, again, I was working late, and I could hear like conversations out here in the area where my staff is. And I really wasn't sure what it was. I thought it was maybe a radio that had gone off on an alarm or something. And so I went out there, and there was no radio on. The voices stopped and so forth. You couldn't tell what the voices were talking about. It was the best way that I can describe it is like when you're at a meeting or a convention and you have a break and you go outside and people are talking at the same time. Can't really hear or understand what they're saying, but because there's a lot of people talking at the same time. So that's what happened in that particular instance.
Luis Lozano, a maintenance technician, says the third floor gives him the creeps, but it's also on the second floor where people have reported to him accounts of all of the toilets flushing at once while the stalls aren't occupied. On one occasion, he even saw something he couldn't explain.
I came over here, and out of this edge of this mirror, I saw it really lit up, and I saw a figure in there. So I turned around to see what it was, and there was nothing. It was dark as that. But I clearly saw a bright light in there with a figure of a human.
It could have been enough to scare the daylights out of someone, but Mr. Lozano says he wasn't afraid.
You don't get a feeling that of being afraid. It's just a feeling of prison.
Another employee believes he also saw a ghost in that same restroom. He can vividly describe what the human-like apparition was wearing and doing until it disappeared. We'll share that encounter and others next.